See North, the Vikings and the Lions battle. The winner not only gets the division title, but a first-round playoff bye. Both teams are 14-2 heading in. That'll be the late game this Sunday. On Saturday, the Browns and Ravens battle. The Ravens can clinch the AFC North with a win. The Steelers can clinch the AFC North with a win and a Ravens loss. Their opponent, Cincinnati. The Bengals can clinch a playoff spot with a win and losses from Denver and Miami. The AFC South title is up for grabs. The 9-7 Buccaneers can clinch with a victory over the Saints. The 8-8 Falcons need to beat the Panthers and hope that the Saints beat the Buccaneers. The Sugar Bowl postponed on Wednesday. Notre Dame and Georgia will square off this afternoon. Bundle auto and home, renters or condo, and save with Progressive. That's the Sports Grid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
Febreze. So my home is also my office. And before I can focus, every room's gotta be clean. That means tidying up, then spraying my Febreze Air Mist. Ooh, that's fresh. Febreze Air Mist scents are all high quality. They fight any weird funk, and they give my air an instant boost of freshness. So not only does my home smell good, I feel good too. After I Febreze, it's time to start my day.
Breathe happy, Febreze, la 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 la.
Juice Reel is a betting intelligence app that links all your betting accounts, giving you in-depth analytics on your betting history. Unlock betting picks from all Juice Reel users who have spent billions of dollars betting on sports. Follow real bets from profitable bettors on Juice Reel. Download the free Juice Reel app today in the App Store. Enter the promo code FLASH, F-L-A-S-H, and you'll get $50 in app currency absolutely free. Promo code FLASH for $50 in app currency, Juice Reel.
Smart is coming back. The days of just picking teams based on a coin toss are over. You need the latest stats, odds, and information. Make a plan. It's smarter to be on Sports Grid. Well, duh. This is the Sports Grid Radio Network. And now, back to Moneyline with Kevin Walsh and Donnie Rightside.
Oh, the best hour of your day. It is official. It's underway. It's new week. It's new year. It's new money. It's Donnie. It's Kevin. And away we go. Because why? We have a college football playoff game today that we did not expect. Now, granted, setting the table, we'll get to some of the parameters around why this game is actually happening. But it is happening today. It's 4 p.m. right in the middle of the afternoon. A monster game with a spread of 1.5 and a total of 45.5. It's the SEC's Georgia, the independent Notre Dame boys. I'm excited. And the topics today that we can talk about, from starters to records to fun, I love this, man. This is the time of the year you need to be right here with us on the grid.
No doubt about it. We got a lot to get to here. Of course, today's coverage of Notre Dame and Georgia. Just kind of the fly-by nature of it. We were hoping that we were going to be able to get the full crew together, myself, Donnie, and Joe. Kind of the way things break. It's going to likely be myself and Lisi taking over for what should really be the second half, 6 p.m. game time decisions. And we'll have you the whole way through the Sugar Bowl live tonight, assuming that game probably buttons up around 7:30, 7:45.
Yeah, going to be good. It's going to be a big-time game. Now, granted, if you were watching football over the holiday break, I made this point today on the early line. And, you know, usually it's like, well, I don't really like this or like that, or I'm not right. Like, I didn't even know, like, the NBA or college basketball was playing the past 4 to 5 days. I have been having so much fun, from NFL to college football, back to NFL, back to college football. And usually it's like, okay, you get 1 or 2 games in the playoff. It's like, hey, that's what you get. Like, we're going to finish a game today, Kevin, and then we have the Final Four with the big boys, and then the final game. Like, college football used to wind down around New Year's Day, and it doesn't anymore, and I love that, man. More big games to come, man.
Yeah, listen, I definitely think you want more big games. I think there is an unfortunate and certainly not top of mind wrinkle that comes with the game being moved back, in that Penn State Boise's winner was always going to have a day of rest over the Georgia Notre Dame winner. Now multiple days of rest, again, not what that team, committee needed to base the decision for this on. And ultimately, there was so much more important stuff happening. I think that's why you see the game being played at 4:00 as opposed to being played at 8:45, which was some of those initial conversations. I understand that they can't flip, like, hey, you know what? We'll do Texas, Ohio State Thursday, and we'll do Penn State, versus either Notre Dame or Georgia Friday. But just now another wrinkle kind of thrown in of a format, Donnie, that, we've been adjusting to throughout the postseason.
No, you're right about it. And there are some extracurriculars that come in because, again, the attack that happened in New Orleans, this game was supposed to be last night, 8:45 p.m. They push it back a day. Most people probably figured it would be at night, but also you did have the input, as you're saying, Kevin, from both coaches here. And what that means is these two coaches were saying, all right, the kids were cooped up all day yesterday in lockdown. We're going to coop them up all the time today, which you wanted to get these kids out and get them playing as soon as possible. Also, from a security standpoint, it's a lot easier to defend, as I want to say now, the Superdome against anything that would be contrary to helping this football game go or anything around the circumstances that took place in New Orleans. It's easier to do that in game time. Get the fans in, get the fans out, get them on their way, and so you go there. But also from a competitive standpoint, into next week, it is fair to the kids to try to get them home as soon as possible for the winning side so they can start their preparation for the next bowl game. All of that does go into it. It's in New Orleans today. If we're looking at both sides of the equation, because we'll get to some other hot topics later, but we're just handicapping this one. I thought it was a surprise, and I know you guys on College Football Today were surprised by it as well. Like Trevor Etienne coming back for the SEC championship game out of nowhere and getting a full workload and doing very well and scoring 2 touchdowns caught some people, off guard, and rightfully so.
Didn't help me out.
He's had even more time to rest at this point. And the same thing with Jeremiah Love for Notre Dame, who came in a little bit banged up in the last game with knee injury, still going like 98 yards to the house on one play. So you're getting a full deck out of the running backs. But the question to me is, how much stock are we putting in Gunnar Stockton, the quarterback, today for UGA?
Yeah, I think it's a guessing game. But I made this point a little yesterday when we were doing our New Year's special for CFT.
Yeah.
They were faced with a 3rd and short, Donnie, on his opening possession of the second half.
Yes.
They threw the football. I was like, oh my gosh, they must love this kid. Because, Donnie, it was the 3rd and 2. So just run the ball with ETN, right? Like, nobody's going to blame you, right? They threw the football, picked up an 18-yard gainer. The interception, right, which was like a big sticking point for a lot of people of, oh my God, this kid's a terrible quarterback. It's never going to happen. And again, I feel like I watch every Georgia game, Donnie, just with completely different glasses on than everybody else. I go, they just threw the ball. You guys understand? Like, they love this kid. And behind Gunnar Stockton is Jaden Rashada, a 5-star. Stockton beats him out clearly for the quarterback 2 job. You think about the reality around Carson Beck, Donnie, and I don't think Kirby was ever going to be able to bench him. I'm not saying for certain that they think Stockton's better, but I don't get any sense that Georgia feels they are drawing dead at the quarterback position, Donnie.
No, and also understand this, which we talk about a lot in the NFL. This is a kid, and I explained it earlier today too. It's not a walk-on freshman who's going to get his first snaps in a big game at this point. This is one of the most decorated high school football players you will find in the country who's coming in. He's been a part of that system for a couple years now, and he came in ice cold in the last football game, in the biggest game you could probably play in a lot of kids' careers, and passed. I don't want to say with flying colors. They won the football game. That was the goal. But now you have a couple weeks after that football game where you're the starter. They're going to cater this exact game plan to you. ATN is another couple weeks healthier here. So I don't think it's going to be that big of a fall off, but I'm still a little bit leery. Like, I need to watch this first quarter and figure what's the game plan for Georgia? Because for me, it's about winning national championships. I don't think Georgia's going to play this football game, or should I say, I don't think Kirby's going to play this game as, let's protect the quarterback, let's run the football, let's win on defense, and not ask the kid to make any plays. Because what does that get you? Like, let's just say they win this game. Yes, it's all fine and good. Stockton threw 11 passes, completed 6 for 48 yards, and they won. Like, I really feel like if you come out, and you don't need to flame it, Kevin, it was 175.5. It's now up to 180 as passing prop. But if you can get 200 yards passing out of this kid, you probably win this game, right?
Most likely. I guess they're but the other way we always joke about it, right? It's like, he threw for 220 because they were losing the whole game, right? Like, you never know how something could break in that way. I don't hate the bet one bit. I'm interested in his legs. Clearly, the broadcast, when he came in, they're like, listen, man, this kid can move. Notre Dame has not seen they have not seen a lot out of mobile quarterbacks this season. So that becomes, an interesting wrinkle if Stockton does have that type of mobility ultimately in this game. But I think one of the swing points here, and I know we're talking Stockton props, but Notre Dame has not played many good defenses, man. Like, we always talk about a team strength of schedule, right? But what's made this schedule easy?
Yeah.
Notre Dame has not gone up against top tier defenses this season. Right outside of A&M, Donnie, I mean, it's probably the MAC schools that they played. So it'll be a very interesting thing, I think, ultimately, to see how everything looks on the field for the Notre Dame offense, because in the same way, listen, I don't think they're going to put Stockton in a box, but they don't want him to make mistakes. Donnie, Notre Dame probably feels very similarly about their quarterback.
No, you're right. There's a lot of questions as we enter this game on how it's going to play off. The one thing I do know is Riley Leonard's played a lot of football in college. It's not going to be too big for the moment. Maybe the defense is too good for the moment on Georgia for him, but Notre Dame's got an equally good defense. Who is this coming down to? Is it the running game? Because the quarterbacks, if you want them to throw 2 touchdown passes, you're getting great numbers, almost 2-1 on both of these quarterbacks to do that, which is pretty incredible. A lot of good fun to have, but also let's let these hot topics get out in the air. Dan Campbell, Minnesota Vikings, Sunday Night Football, Saquon Barkley, 2,000 yards. Should he get the record? Stick with us right here on the Sports Grid Network. It's Moneyline, your favorite hour of the day. Yes, it is underway. We'll be right back.
We're the club you want to join, even though we'd have you as a member.
You'll like it here. We have munchies.
And the winning edge. This is the Sports Grid Radio Network.
With the Sports Grid News Flash, I'm Trey Westerberg. A U.S. Army veteran driving a pickup truck that bore the flag of the Islamic State group brought carnage on New Orleans' New Year's celebration, killing 15 people as he steered around a police blockade and slammed into revelers before being shot dead by police. The FBI said it was investigating the attack early Wednesday as a terrorist act and did not believe the driver acted alone. Investigators found guns and what appeared to be an improvised explosive device in the vehicle, along with other devices elsewhere in the city's French Quarter. Authorities are investigating a Tesla Cybertruck explosion on Wednesday outside the Trump Las Vegas Hotel in Nevada as a possible act of terror. Investigators were looking into any possible connections to the deadly attack in New Orleans earlier Wednesday, but had not yet discovered any. The driver of the Cybertruck pulled into the valet area of the hotel and the vehicle exploded. The driver was killed, and so far the only fatality from the incident. 7 bystanders had minor injuries. I'm Trey Westerberg with the Sports Grid News Flash.
Hey, you've definitely had a busy month. Finding gifts, sending cards, hosting family. Well, now it's time to treat yourself at Macy's After Christmas Sale. Come and find great deals on something just for you. Like 25% off New Year's party looks from DKNY, Adriana Papel, and more. So enjoy the week and get yourself the gifts you really wanted before these limited time deals are over. At Macy's After Christmas Sale. Savings off already reduced prices. Exclusions apply.
This holiday season, Capital One reminds you to give yourself the gift of 1.5% cash back with the Capital One Quicksilver Card.
Can I earn 1.5% cash back on birds?
Birds?
What if you sent your true love 2 turtle doves plus a partridge in a pear tree?
Sure, but why would anyone want that?
The song was very convincing.
Earn 1.5% cash back on all your holiday purchases with the Capital One Quicksilver Card. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com for details.
You've heard of smart bombs,
Smartphones, smart cars, smart watches, and smart glasses.
Now you can add smart player.
Giving you sports gaming strategies and information 24/7.
It's smarter to be on Sports Grid.
This is the Sports Grid Radio Network.
Right back in the mix, baby. It's Moneyline. It's a football Thursday. How about that? Usually a football Friday we get geeked up. Now, Week 18 has a lot of trials and tribulations you got to get through. We understand that. And it's part of the fun of us losing our minds when Detroit was playing their starters all the way through. And Kevin, I got to laugh at this because won money on Monday, so I enjoyed myself. I can't even believe what I was watching, the setup before my eyes where Dan Campbell actually went through and played all of his players. But I went back and looked at, because before the game, like sometimes, you know what? It's not really a handicap you give out to the public because there's not really a handicap behind it. We were trying to jump the gun and say there's a chance that the starters might only play a series, 2 series, 3 series, 4 series, a half, could play third quarter, fourth quarter. We don't know, but we're trending to less. So we took the receptions props on 4 different guys to the under.
Yeah.
Monster number. I used the boost.
Mm-hmm.
It lost, but every one of them lost. So if you just reversed it, it would have won. And I didn't check it until yesterday just to see the notes, and they all would have won if we pressed the button for the over, which made me laugh in that one.
It would have been if we said, hey, listen, should we take a bet on like, hey, what if Dan can't? The funny thing is, like, if we said, let's take a bet on what if Dan Campbell presses it down, I don't know what that bet would have been. Just because, like, ultimately, Donnie, the props were all expecting him to play a normal game.
Yes,
and go
correct.
about it like it was a normal approach there. The only thing that I had beef with was your poll roping Nick Sirianni in with Dan Campbell.
But you don't know the context of it, though. You weren't reading it correctly. That poll was put out specifically before, which is you put a perfect segue on me now. This is great. The poll was put out before the vote from the team and the ownership on if Saquon Barkley was going to play. That's when I wanted it out, because I was banking on that there was a possibility that he would play Saquon, and it fit my narrative. Only later to find out that he benched him. So because somebody was asked, like, oh, by far it's Sirianni's a rockhead. And I said, or Dan Campbell, whatever. And I said, you know what? I'm going to veto this because the people voted correctly with Dan Campbell as being the head rockhead. But I told him I would veto it and give Sirianni the rockhead if he played Saquon Barkley. So let's start the fun here, because there's a lot to get into.
Yeah.
And one thing, Kevin, which why I love Twitter/X, because there's really good takes, there's mediocre takes, there's terrible takes. But we all live in the same stratosphere where everybody has their opinion and can share it, whether it's horrendous or not. I started losing my mind yesterday, and I was telling Ben on the early line. There was almost a point yesterday where I wanted to call up, management and say, you got to break. I need a half hour by myself live on all of whatever, like YouTube, TV, whatever, because I'm going to explode here. We talk about Monday Night Football with Dan Campbell, and I say to myself, they can't play their starters because it literally puts your team at a deficit in the biggest game you're going to have all year. They played their starters. It is what it is, and it happened here. But then I see the post-game press conference, Kevin, and Dan Campbell is telling us, what do you mean rest starters? Like, it's even impossible if you wanted to do it. And my blood started boiling enough where I thought my head was going to pop off. And then they had another person on that same, Twitter link that showed Bill Belichick telling you, like, well, how do I tell the starters that they're going to sit down and the backups are going to play over them? I'm like, I'm dying. Like, I'm dying inside right now, knowing that every week 18, everybody rests their starters, and 2 coaches are telling us, and people are lock, step, and barrel that they're actually right about this. So then we say, all right, well, you can start because there's 53 guys on the roster, 22 starters. It's easy to do, which you see multiple teams doing this week, which then plays into the next one. Listening in Philadelphia, Saquon Barkley, I would probably say more than half of the callers, you owe it to the team to play Saquon Barkley in Week 18. Even people like Ike Reese, who's in Philadelphia, who played for the Philadelphia Eagles for a decade, is like, you got to give it to him. You got to let him play. Like, Kevin, what world do I live in at this point where getting the rushing championship is more important than winning the actual Super Bowl? Because I'll leave you with this question, too, is let's just say if Sirianni spoke to the team. Now, he's the coach, right? Maybe it comes from ownership or not. But somebody needs to put their name on it if he was going to play. Sirianni would be allowed to go to the press conference. I told the football team I didn't want him playing. My owner said he was going to play. I can't do anything about it. Or same thing. Howie Roseman, I told him, I don't want Saquon to play. The team doesn't want him to play. Howie said, you must play. So let's put it out there, because if they lost, let's say Jordan Mailata, Lane Johnson, Cam Jurgens, Landon Dicker, I'm not saying all of them, one of them, or heaven forbid Saquon got hurt. What's the fan base say after that football game when he's out for the first 2 weeks of the playoffs if the Eagles go that far?
Yeah, there is a lot for me, Donnie. There was one mistake I think that was made, and I'll get to that in a second.
Okay, keep going.
Dan Campbell and Bill Belichick come off preposterous. Like, I can only make 6-7 guys inactive.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Hey, how about all the guys that are not active, the guys that are active that you'd never put into the football game? Like, why? Why are you doing this? We're not stupid, okay? This is irrelevant. So that was obviously completely ridiculous. I saw Saquon, though, when it came in terms of, I didn't think he cared as much as he ultimately seemingly does care, which made it a little bit easier for me to say, hey, don't go for the record, right? You could tell, I think, at the locker room, Donnie, that Saquon actually faced with the whole thing, wishes he could go for the record, right?
Good point.
And I also think the reality for Saquon, so for you and I, Donnie, as Eagle fans, right? Rushing record, Super Bowl, right? For Saquon Barkley, I've heard people talk about this, Donnie. The rushing record probably does more for him than a Super Bowl, unless he wins Super Bowl MVP, right?
Yes.
Which he could, but ultimately,
fine.
Here is the mistake that was made and why I think they had no choice but to bench him.
Correct.
And you and I have talked a lot about this. Yes.
Yep. Lay it out.
They had 10 plus minutes of game time against Dallas where Donnie, I am not kidding. I think he could have broke the record against the Cowboys. That team quit, and the Eagles' offensive line were absolutely mowing people down. And Saquon was running like the game just started. At minimum, I think he runs for another 30 yards. At most, I think he beats the record in that game. In hindsight, Donnie, that was a mistake to pop him out in that moment.
Yep, we're going to talk more about that because Kevin's point hits the dart directly. There was a change of opinion before that game started and after that game ended on what should have actually happened. We're going to talk about that and more, and so many more hot topics, which includes Cam Scatterboo. Everybody's running back, people. And much more. Radio Moneyline. Come on back with us.
We never stop giving you sports gaming strategies and information 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Business hours are for losers. This is the Sports Grid Radio Network. The Sports Grid Radio Network presents This Date in Sports History.
In 1965, the New York Jets signed Alabama quarterback Joe Namath to a then Pro Football record $427,000 contract over 3 years. Namath led the Jets to a 16-7 win over the heavily favored Colts in Super Bowl III.
They were as big as underdogs as a bunch of college all-stars for that college all-star game.
For Sports Grid Radio, I'm Mike DeMurgis.
The Technology Minute with George Capalbo.
AI algorithms trained by Dartmouth researchers with tens of thousands of knee x-rays looking for hidden medical insights. The AI discovered if orthopedic patients drank beer or didn't like to eat refried beans. These amazing, subtle, unintended patterns in the data are all highly accurate, except have absolutely no basis in medical fact. An AI defect known as shortcut learning, while it's a great tool, AI doesn't actually reason or understand and can easily hallucinate. Follow me at Chicapalvo on X and stay tuned to the Technology Minute for more cool stuff like this.
The early line.
I just think it's a terrible matchup here for Boise State. The defense of Penn State allowing 279 yards of total offense a game, allowing barely 100 yards per game rushing, which is the strength of Boise State. It's simple. Shut down Ashton Genty, and guess what? Boise State's going to have a hard time in this game.
It's the early line with Ben Stevens and Donnie Rightside. Weekdays, 8 a.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific on the Sports Grid Radio Network. There, Sporto. We know you've been hurt in the past. Big stations with big promises lied to you, suckered you in. We don't do that. We're the real deal. You can take our information to the bank. This is the Sports Grid Radio Network.
Just leaving off at a topic that we have, which is a big one. Saquon Barkley going for the record. It's still hitting. I watched ESPN this morning. They kept talking about it as well. And we didn't get a chance to talk about it yesterday when it actually happened, where the decision did come down. But Kevin was right on this. They played this wrong because there was a belief. And we're not in the locker room, but you know how it plays out. You know, Kevin, I have to say, I'm a fly on the wall. I can read right into it. There was a decision made by the football team. The important thing was, let's at least get Saquon to 2,000 yards. He achieved that on Sunday. They called a timeout with close to 11 minutes to go and gave him the curtain call. Unbelievable season. We're not going for the rushing record. only to then say, ooh, you know what? Saquon slept on it. You saw his dad's comments like, man, like my family name would be attached to this for probably the next 50 years as who's the number one overall running back season single rushing record. And it does mean a lot. But there was no way they could have gone back and go, well, we got you the 2,000. We were in agreement that you were coming out. Now we can't go ahead because even, Kevin, you're right. If you ran for, let's just say he had 10 more carries left in him, which you would have had, they would have fed the ball every play. And he only got 40 yards out of the 10, which he probably would have busted one for 60 and got it.
Yeah.
You can then wake up on Monday and go, boy, he's 60 yards short. I'm telling you right now, that's a maximum of 10 plays that I need to use my starters for. We don't need to play the defense. They can all rest. We don't need to play A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith. We can put the backup running backs. We don't even need Dallas Goedert, whose practice window opened up this weekend, even to get reps. We're going to put all the backups in. We just need that offensive line that can pave the way for 10 plays, and we would get it. You might be able to sell me on that. But 100 yards could turn into, he has 51 at the break on 16 carries. And like, he's going to go for another 16 carries in the second half for 30-plus carries with a playoff game on. There was no way. So it's understandable you have buyer's remorse, or it's the thing Saquon does, because if you had your way, you're right, Kevin. They would have ran him 47 times in that football game. And you know what? If he would have got injured, you would have still said, well, the game still meant something. And even though we were up, he had the record to break. I don't think nearly as many people, including myself, would have had any objection with that.
You wouldn't, because I don't know for you, Donnie, you had a very high bar, low bar. You got of what he needed to have left on the docket to enter into week 18. I think you said, like, listen, 30 or less,
30,
right?
40 yards.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly. Yes.
And again, that's what I think he would have been within range. I think we're seeing now, Donnie, like, if he was 70 away, they would have gave it to him. Because here is the thing that is a little annoying about this. 101 yards is what he needs for the record. 102 to own it.
Correct.
That's a lot of yards, Donnie. Like, I know the Giants are bad, but like they're going to sell out to stop the run.
Yes.
You know, like Saquon. Let me just tell you, this is somebody who had Saquon in, you know, Donnie, a lot of fantasy championships last week, right?
Yep.
I had Saquon 200 plus bets. I just, you know, as an Eagle fan, you know who couldn't get anything going for about a half? Saquon Barkley.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you have, Donnie? 15 first half carries for about, 50, 60 yards?
Yep.
You can't run him out there 30 times. You can't, I'm sorry. I ultimately think they ended up in a spot where they were left without a bit of an option here. And that's, what I think's funny, though, and what I got a little bit of a kick out of is apparently they asked my lot, and he's like, yeah, we want it, right?
Yep.
But then Lane Johnson, who's been around forever, he's like, yeah, man, 2000's plenty, all right? We ain't playing that.
But you know what my favorite one, though, was, Kevin? To be honest, the favorite one by far was A.J. Brown. Because A.J. Brown, as soon as after the game, was like, yeah, we deserve a lot of rest at this point. It was a great season. Because everybody's joking, like, yeah, AJ, you knew you wouldn't get the football at all in week 18. So why are we going out there? That was a great season, man. Let's wrap it up. You know what I mean? That was AJ Brown, as selfish as he is, you're not supposed to like selfish players. God, I love that guy because I can feed right into what he's buying. The minute that game ends, what do you think about Saquon's record? Poor man, week 18 is so nice to have off. It really is.
It is hilarious that because you have such a read on everything AJ does, he has turned into just one of your absolute favorites.
Yep.
He cracks me up, man. Look, I think that again, Dan Campbell probably into that game around 1:00, be like, I don't understand. Where's Saquon Barkley? Like, what is it? Think it's going to be a recruiting tool? I will tell you this. There were players on the Detroit Lions that were not happy that they were out there that whole game. You can just tell in the effort level. You can just tell.
Full gas. And again, here's the part, because we're going to get into the college running backs as a perfect segue to Saquon after the break. But I'm telling you right now, never more have I turned into a heel on myself where I have hundreds of dollars on the line in bets for Detroit to win the NFC. And if they lost this game, then lost in the playoffs before I was able to cash tickets, like I'm saying, it might be worth it, which is so ludicrous from any handicapper. But at that point now, Detroit is my favorite team, and I'm quickly heel turning on them absolutely now. Ashton Ginty, Cam Scattaboo, two different players, two different games. We'll talk about it next.
You're listening to your source of sports gaming strategies and information.
We call it the winning edge.
It helps make the odds even. This is the Sports Grid Radio Network.
Progressive presents the Sports Grid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders. College football playoff quarterfinals on Wednesday. 8th seed Ohio State knocked off top seed Oregon 41-21. The Buckeyes took a 14-0 lead out of the first quarter, then outscored the Ducks 20-8 in the second quarter. The Ducks finished the season at 13-1. Ohio State now 12-2. Elsewhere, double overtime. 5th seed Texas beat 4th seed Arizona State 39-31. The Longhorns and Buckeyes will battle January the 10th at the Cotton Bowl Classic and will face the winner of the Orange Bowl in the national championship game. Penn State's already punched its ticket to the Orange Bowl. They beat Boise State 31-14 in the Fiesta Bowl Tuesday. They await the winner of today's Sugar Bowl between Notre Dame and Georgia. The matchup postponed following a truck attack in the French Quarter. Bundle auto and home, renters or condo, and save with Progressive. That's the Sports Grid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
Hey, you've definitely had a busy month. Finding gifts, sending cards, hosting family. Well, now it's time to treat yourself at Macy's After Christmas Sale. Come and find great deals on something just for you. Like 25% off New Year's party looks from DKNY, Adriana Papel, and more. So enjoy the week and get yourself the gifts you really wanted before these limited time deals are over. At Macy's After Christmas Sale. Savings off already reduced prices. Exclusions apply.
What's better than one win? 3 wins. With Straight Savings, you keep your own phone, get one line for only $25 a month with real unlimited data, and get rewarded with a $200 phone credit after 12 months. It's a win-win-win. Head to Walmart or visit straighttalk.com today. Switch to Straight Talk. Less dollars, more sense. Straight Savings Plan enrollment requires compatible unlocked device and new line of service. Bonus device credit requires 12 months of active service. Offer ends if eligibility requirements are no longer met. Taxes and fees apply. For network management practices, see Straight Talk's terms and conditions.
Be the master of your domain. Get the Sports Grid mobile app so now you can get the winning edge while your wife is in a dressing room trying on stuff while you wait patiently on the uncomfortable chair. This is the Sports Grid Radio Network.
Granted, I didn't watch a lot of college football Arizona State style this year. Cam Scatterbo knew he was a good running back. Why? Because you said the statistics to have that. But sometimes you got to watch. Like, I've seen a lot of Ashton Ginty highlights, watch him in a game or two just to see how it flows. Playing lesser competition, but dominated. And quite frankly, he's going to be a good NFL running back. I don't think anybody is going to not argue that. But before I get into Ashton Ginty, I want to go over Cam Scatterbo. At some point yesterday, Kevin, I started watching that football game to start. I'm like, this is the stupidest game. I was even going to start tweeting like, Cam Scatterbooty. You know what I mean? Because it's like, wouldn't do anything early on. Arizona State shouldn't have been there. And as this game started to play out, and I saw this kid out there just running like a wrecking ball, catching passes, throwing passes, I was actively rooting for Arizona State because I needed another week of this kid. I needed another week of this offense. I needed this renegade program, it feels like, that was just going out there and flaunting and being angry with every play and pushing your offensive lineman around, and the quarterback's upset because nobody's blocking. Dillingham's over there rolling his eyes every 15 minutes at the plays and at the referees. I'm like, this is like a renegade program I can get behind. He was absolutely sensational. And I just wanted to see, Kevin, that get to 2-point conversions and go, we handed the Scatterboo every single time. We win this. We'll go 75 straight 2-point conversions with him because you can't stop him. Kevin, he's running the football 300 pounds and meets him right in the hole. Don't care. Run you over, run around you, spin off you. Yeah. Oh, and then 2 DBs want to I'm still getting into the end zone. I had so much fun watching that college football game because of him himself.
Yeah, I think the fascinating thing is, he had the comment. Clearly, Dillingham tells these guys, like, no, listen, pump your chest. He had the comment that people don't realize I'm the best running back in college.
Oh, my goodness.
And, I mean, listen, here's the deal. Ginty had a brilliant season, right? Mm-hmm. Well, Cam Scatterboo, Don, would you say played a tougher defense, at minimum as good? Right? Yeah. And we went out there for 200 yards of offense, 2 tugs, threw another one, or 3 touchdowns. What did he even have? I mean, my goodness.
3 total touchdowns, right? I think it was.
Yeah. So, look, I haven't sat down, broke down film, but in today's day and age, what Scatterboo can do in the receiving game, like, are we sure he's not the number 1 running back in this upcoming class? And by the way, I think Ginty is so good, I said the Chicago Bears should draft him in the top 10 the other day on air. Like, I think Ginty is an incredible running back.
Yeah.
But that's just like how overwhelming that performance from Scadaboo was. I will, for Texas, man, what a crazy game. I don't even know what to say. Like, you had him dead to rights. Yes, it was targeting.
Yes,
but
it was.
also like 4th and 13, your season's on the line. Hey, you know what? How about one of those double moves and just bang right in
Zero
the bucket?
blitz.
I mean, then they scored so quickly. They weren't even
Get
back,
back from the commercial break. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I sat down and got up
was
and I saw Helm getting the
chaos.
touchdown. Whoa. It was a fun,
I thought it was
fun
a
game to watch.
replay.
Yeah. And by the way, I needed Helm to get a couple yards from me, let alone I should have just upped the price on, Scadaboo, and also I took a little action at like a plus 225 at the break, which I thought was dead because Helm seemingly had no catches and no yards. I'm like, oh, he's going to have at least 1 or 2 catches in the second half. Gets it basically on that final drive before he actually went to overtime, which I was happy to see. But I enjoyed that game thoroughly all the way through, and I'm still not like Quinn Ewers as your quarterback. I thought they were protecting the whole game. I thought they're just trying to say we're just a better football team at the end, and we don't think they can tie this one up. Don't make any mistakes, and yet he continued to make mistakes. But he did show up when it mattered. A couple really nice balls late, including in the overtime, which sort of resurrected him for another week. But I don't think Texas is winning the national championship, and everybody's going to get back to Arch Manning at this point. But it's not going to change. He's still going to be the starter. But if we do look at the other game, Kevin, that was played in the college football semifinals here, or quarterfinals, excuse me. That Penn State-Boise State game had a lot. Now, I went into the game going, you know what, Penn State's a really good defense. I don't see anybody out here in these streets that are taking any unders on Ashton Ginty. It wasn't a handicap. Trust me, it wasn't. It was just like 128.5 yards. I'm just going to take the under, figuring they're going to lose the football game, and he'll get his yards, but I don't think he's going to get near the 128. And it wasn't going to be a sweat until the final drive of the game where we don't care about winning. We just want to run hurry up to get this mythical bogus record where Barry's yards don't count, but my running backs count. And it's not to slander Ginty, who's a fabulous kid, and everything I read about him, he does right here. And I know what the team's motive was, but this isn't the final game of your senior year where it's a non-bowl game that you're just trying to do some hijinks. This is a college football championship round where your motive was actually to get a rushing record than a miracle victory at the end. And again, yes, it's a little bit more motivated for me because I had an under ticket, but just in the way the concept of the game is supposed to play, I thought it was ridiculous.
I fully agree. I wonder if, I don't know, Donnie, sometimes I think there's stuff in the air that prevents these things from happening. Like, remember Antoine Davis, by chance? The kid that almost beat Pistol Pete's record, except Pete played like 3 seasons and that kid played about 6.
Correct.
And they accepted an invite to like a tournament nobody's ever heard of.
CBI, CIT. No, this is like the CDI. They just made it up for him.
Yeah.
Right.
And he had like one of the worst games of his career.
Yes.
Now, Ginty, again, is not comparable to that. He had an incredible season. Yeah. Ginty, though, was playing in his 14th game. Barry played 11, 12. The bowl game doesn't count. Now look, you could argue that Ginty is probably playing against, I don't know, just like the way level goes up, right, Donnie? Like ultimately, a 2024 Mountain West is probably as good as a 1982, whatever it might be, Big 12, but
Big 8.
Felt wrong. Like to bring the Saquon thing into it, Donnie, watching Boise State run a 2-minute offense with handoffs on 1st and 10 and 2nd and 8 was disgusting. Watching Saquon against the Giants get the ball on 1st and 10, 2nd and 10, 3rd and 8. Like, I don't want to watch that. It just doesn't feel real to me. Like, and not that it would, Saquon would earn it 100%, right? But it just feels odd doing stuff like that. So, I don't dislike Ginty at all. I was all over Boise.
Yeah.
That was a ridiculous look. It was a ridiculous look.
Yes. You can put it in any sport, Kevin. Let's just say basketball. Steph Curry's 11 3-point shots made away from some mythical record in the final game of the year. And all Golden State does is let him shoot 3. Oh, Steph shot 41 3-point shots in the first half and got it. Congratulations. It does. Like, you wanted to get it in the moment, right? And again, it comes from a place of, if they were trying to get it against the Dallas Cowboys the previous week, it comes off way easier to try to explain. Like, yeah, dude, there's couple games left. We wanted to get it, so hopefully he didn't have to go into next week. It makes some sense. He was hot at the time, and he handed off. But you're right about that. there is something about a manufactured moment. I believe it was, I brought this up before. UConn's women, I want to say it's UConn's women's basketball. Somebody blew a knee out with like a bucket away from a record, and they let her play the next game. But when I say let her play, they had an agreement with the other team, and they tipped the ball off, and they stood the other girl under the basket with the torn ACL and passed it to her, where she just made a layup and left the ball game so she could get the record. You see what I mean? Like, now how's that kid going to go? Like, yeah, it was the all-time record at UConn. Like, were you really, though? Yes, it's a stupid break that you got, but you didn't get it in the moment where it was supposed to happen. It was a manufactured play during a regular basketball game, which is wild. So he would have the record, and you would remember that. But at the same time, hey, who leads the NFL in sacks for a season? Oh, it's Strahan. Yeah, you remember how he got it? Yeah, it's bogus. So forget that record. Like, I don't look at Strahan, honestly, as like a huge record holder. Like, oh, yes, it's sacks. Yeah. Well, he got gifted his championship sack, per se.
I would just tell you, I always go back and watch that play. I feel like Strahan was about to abuse Brett Favre. I feel like you've explained this to me before, so we don't have to do it again. But just, I don't know, every time I watch that highlight, like, it looks like Strahan came off the edge clean, and Brett was like, I'm going to lay down because I'm not going to let him kill me. But
but here was the play that happened, which is why it was a problem. It's the end of the game where Green Bay was running the clock out. So the offensive line actually came into the game and goes like, our number one goal is he can't get that sack because it's a point of pride for ourselves. So on a running play to end the game, he took it on himself to keep the football as if it was a pass and got sacked and rolled right into Strahan. See what I mean?
That's that's gross.
There you go. It is. It's what happens. It's Moneyline. The boos are coming down strong because we got a lot more topics to hit and a lot more agenda to go. Stay tuned right here, Sports Grid Radio.
Loser is kind of a mean-spirited slur.
But it doesn't have to stick.
Tell them to listen to Sports Grid and fix it.
No, thank you.
Later.
This is the Sports Grid Radio Network.
Progressive presents the Sports Grid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders. College football bowl action today at the Superdome in New Orleans. Second seed Georgia battles 7th seed Notre Dame. The winner advances to the Orange Bowl, where they'll take on the Penn State Nittany Lions. Then the winner of that advances to the national title game, where they'll take on the winner of the Texas-Ohio State matchup in the Cotton Bowl Classic. The Sugar Bowl originally scheduled to be played yesterday, but it was postponed following a deadly truck attack in the French Quarter in the early morning hours of New Year's Day. One other game on the schedule today at the Gator Bowl in Jacksonville. Number 14 Ole Miss squares off with Duke. Both teams are 9-3. Men's top 25 hoops, number 11 UConn beat DePaul 81-68. Women's top 25, number 1 UCLA 86-70 over number 24 Michigan. Number 4 USC beat Nebraska 75-55. Number 7 UConn 77-45 over Marquette. Bundle auto and home, renters or condo, and save with Progressive. That's the Sports Grid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
It's a new year, and you have the chance to focus on you. Take the opportunity to treat yourself to something amazing and come into Macy's this weekend for great deals on wardrobe superstars like 20 to 30% off Karl Lagerfeld, Levi's, Tommy Hilfiger, and more. While you're at it, get back into a healthy routine with new gear from Nike, Adidas, and Under Armour. And your New Year's resolutions? Oh, you have plenty of time to figure them out. But these deals start tomorrow at Macy's. Savings off already reduced prices. Exclusions apply.
Ah, the holidays. A time to come together and reflect on what truly matters.
The KFC Festive Feast for $25.99.
Feel the joy
of 6 original recipe tenders and 6 pieces of hand-breaded chicken.
Family and friends celebrating.
2 large sides and 3 sauces.
The warmth of
11 herbs and spices.
Love. I was going to say love.
And KFC.
Okay. The KFC Festive Feast. Order ahead on the app and feast for just $25.99. Prices and participation may vary. Tax, tip, and fees extra. Online ordering available at participating locations.
If Sports Grid was a burrito, we'd be the one with steak and carnitas packed so full every bite made your cheeks poof out like Dizzy Gillespie, so the name's stuck and now even your mother calls you Dizzy. This is the Sports Grid Radio Network.
Shout out to the chat box out here coming strong today. X-Man, Chris Warren, Mike by the way, Mike Parsons. Is that code for Micah Parsons in the chat box today? Could be tremendous at her. Akbar's out here having fun, sharing information. It's the way we do it. By the way, X-Man says, bring back Moneyline at 2 p.m. Bring back Moose. How about that? Is Moose listening right now? He's got to still be listening, no? Is he checking in with us?
Yeah. When do we? Phone lines will be up any day now, they say.
September. What was like September 1st, the last time we took a phone call? August 31st.
Yeah, it's been a while, man. You missed the people. We used to hang out with the people all the time.
Yeah, we did. We did.
It's not right. It's not
Red
right.
Tail, X-Man,
Yeah.
Moose.
What do we got on deck here? Oregon Rose
Chris.
Bowl? You don't like the Rose. Oh no, you
What?
love the Rose Bowl. Which one is it? You
the
love
Rose
the Rose Bowl or you don't
Hold on.
like the Rose Bowl?
I'm glad you brought that up because let me get this off my chest as well. Because I like sometimes I like to use this hour as therapy, like a sounding board. The Rose Bowl, and because I'm a little bit Jekyll and Hyde on this. The Rose Bowl, I always believe, should host the Super Bowl and the College Football Championship. It's the best atmosphere. Every time you turn the TV on, it's just glorious to watch. But the Rose Bowl lost me a long time ago when they decided they were more important than the actual national championship picture. And I've always had an axe to grind with that since then. And the Big Ten and the Pac-12, Pac-10, whatever it used to be called at this point, they would actually tell you to your face, what would you rather have, a national championship or Rose Bowl? Well, a Rose Bowl, because those teams weren't good enough to actually win the national championship. That was their cop-out. No, Rose Bowl is bigger than a national. Imagine that. A Rose Bowl is bigger than a national championship. Fast forward, where then the Rose Bowl tried to hijack the college football playoff and be like, you're not having this unless we're involved with it, which I think is ridiculous. And also, how does it graded now anyway? Like, it used to be like, hey, Bobby Bowden is 17-3 in bowl games. Like, he would be like 64-22 because you play 6 bowl games now as you head on your way to a national championship. That's also ridiculous. But the fact of the matter, Evan, the time that this game is played, and they did not delay that football game when 99.9% of the country was enthralled by Arizona State and Texas in that game, where they said because right around the middle of the fourth quarter, we love the sunset. I don't even know what I'm listening to anymore. Because congratulations, Rose Bowl. Your ratings probably sucked because by the time we got over to it, the game was over already. Congratulations.
You know, that's the game was already electric at that point. I want to get into something quickly on the Oregon side, Donnie.
Yes.
Because you were with me the whole way during the Brandon Staley stuff. And Donnie was somebody who saw the vision. Brandon Staley was brought in to be a defensive guy whose defenses were atrocious, despite having good defensive players. But he could mask it for a little bit. He's like, he's super aggressive. And, he's got his guys, he knows what's going on. But ultimately, by the time Brandon Staley came to a close, everybody knew the score, right? Dan Lanning, it's real similar. And I've been singing this song all season. And now we're on watch for people to start to figure out what's going on here, Donnie. He is a defensive coach, learned under Kirby Smart. His defenses are atrocious relative to the national championship standard. His calling card, he's aggressive. He's prepared. He's got his guys ready. All the things he didn't end up doing for the Rose Bowl game against Ohio State. But DRS, if you have a defensive background, a defensive pedigree, and your defense is why you can't compete, that might be a problem.
Look, Oregon to me was the most complete team all season long, the way they played the game. Why? Because they were undefeated. Like if there's one team that you can't say got beaten, it's like, well, they didn't deserve to be in the college football playoff, which I'll play that angle. And it's funny because we're all doing it. Every team that loses, they shouldn't have been in the college football playoff. They did get hosed on their seeding because they were the top seed. You're supposed to have the easiest seed, and they threw on probably the most talented team in the sport in Ohio State. But that doesn't excuse you to being down 34-0. And even watching that football game, if they wanted to, which I'm talking about, which we've seen some blowouts in championships because teams just go into fun mode. Like, this is your last game out here. Let it spin. You want to throw for 5 bills and 8 touchdowns and we win by 70? Nobody's going to care at this point. Nobody cares if we get somebody injured into the offseason. Ohio State scored 41 points. They could have scored 71 points in that game. They could have did whatever. Will Howard could have 700 yards passing if they let him let it rip because nobody was defending anybody running or passing. You had extra time to prepare knowing that Ohio State was going to be your opponent and not anybody else at this point. And yet that's the game you had, the game plan where you blinked an eye, you were down 14 points, then 20 points hung on you in the second quarter where you had to get a meaningless drive with a 2-point conversion at the end of the quarter. Just say, hey, whoo, we actually got points in this one. That was an embarrassing effort as you can have from a number 1 overall team that maybe I've ever seen.
Yeah, it doesn't get worse than that. No. It speaks volumes to how talented Ohio State is.
Boy, they are.
I cannot figure out if Chip Kelly is smart or dumb. because the fact that he needed the Michigan game to figure out how to approach, the superstars that he has. But I don't know, for me, Donnie, I remember when Nate Hackett, ultimately, his opening game as a coach for Denver, was so bad. I said they should fire him at the end of the game. And, one of the few times I had a tweet pop off because people were like, you're an idiot. You don't know what you're talking about. And by week 6, everybody's like, they should fire Nate Hackett. I'm not telling you Oregon should fire Dan Lanning. I'm just telling you that there's people out there, Donnie, who go, you think he's the best coach in college? That is so disrespectful. It's unreal. It is so disrespectful. I can't even wrap my head around it.
He's got great sound bites, though, doesn't he? So does that go for something?
Well, yeah, but Don, like him saying we're playing for clicks on the social media hype video they put out. I mean, the guy's, again, his biggest performance is beating Colorado. I can't. So it's one of those things. We'll see. I'll tell you this. Ohio, listen, maybe I just care too much about. That line moved a lot. It's an overreaction. I mean, you're talking about Ohio State getting close to a touchdown to Texas. I'll be in the mix
field in Texas. In Texas. I know Chris Warren's out there. What's he think about that? I mean, shoot me over a comment in this chat box right now what you're thinking out there in these streets about the Texas boys in Texas as underdogs. And you're right about that. Because you know what we have to? Because I don't get you tomorrow to have a football Friday. But there is another line that they watch Monday night and go, this game might have 80 points in it. This is the Sunday Night Football finale that rose up a touchdown after watching Detroit play a meaningless football game against a bad 49ers team. One more segment to go on a Football Thursday, Sugar Bowl Thursday, right here on the Sports Grid Network. We'll be right back.
It's a choice. Roll the dice or listen to us. Luck is finding a good parking spot. Strategy is getting the winning edge. This is the Sports Grid Radio Network. The new Sports Grid app is now available on iOS and the App Store. Experience the ultimate sports betting companion that provides personalized content from your favorite hosts. In-depth matchup previews, game and prop picks, live odds, stats, scores, and more. All in one place. And of course, on the Sports Grid app, you can tune into our live television and radio coverage anytime. On the go, wherever you are. Download the Sports Grid app on the iOS App Store now. It's smarter to be on Sports Grid. Sports Grid Radio presents Gridiron Greats.
Running back Walter Payton set the then NFL rushing title in 1984, passing Jim Brown. Sweetness was a rare combination of power, speed, and agility. In 1999, Payton lost his life at the age of 45. Former teammate Dan Jiggins.
He was, at all stops along the way, the most ferocious competitor that I've ever seen.
For Sports Grid Radio, I'm Mike DeMurgis.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circus Sports Million, Circus Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With two former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
Sports Rage tonight.
Got a statement to make. Brock Purdy blows and Jake Moody sucks. It's both their faults. It's both their faults. Like Moody's missed 2 kicks and they're down by 6, so it could be a tie game. And then Brock Purdy, you want to be paid $50 million a year? Stop throwing the football to the guys on the other damn team, you loser.
It's Sports Rage tonight with Gabe Morency. Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 Pacific, on the Sports Grid Radio Network. You're listening to the voice of authority. Sports gaming strategies and information on daily sporting events. In other words, information you can take to the bank. We are your trusted source for gaming, odds, and more. This is the Sports Grid Radio Network.
I'm telling you, we're going to have a blast on Sunday. Pro football today, stupid Sunday NFL Week 18. You got to be kidding me. There are teams out here that are going to be lining up, Kevin, that don't want to win versus teams that are trying not to win in same games. How do we execute? The Eagles, they don't care if they win that game. The Giants, they're going to go hard in this game. Actually, if I was playing it out right, like the Giants are so brain dead at this point, like a team total over for the Giants, like I really think makes a lot of sense, Kevin. A complete second backups for the Philadelphia Eagles going up against Drew Lock and Neighbors and that offense. Like I would like to take that, but then I don't want to be an idiot by going like, wait a second. They just handed off on 3rd and 11 at the 41-yard line when they're trying to get in the field goal range, picked up 1 yard and punted. Like I know that's going to be or should be in the equation, but I did want to get your take on Minnesota, Detroit as well before we get out of here.
Yeah, it's tough, DRS, because you do have Detroit at home, right? And I think home field advantage matters. And you're asking Minnesota now to win about a gazillion games in a row, which is not an easy thing to do. I find myself still leaning to Detroit because of it's very hard, man, right? Like the situation of it all. I think I look back to Minnesota, Detroit. Minnesota jumped on them, right? And Detroit still found a way. I think if you're Detroit, who got jumped on by the Niners, if they get jumped on again, I don't think the comeback's there, right? So I think Detroit has to go early. So I would be maybe a little interested in it. I don't know if it's a Detroit first half, a Detroit team total in the opening half, quarter, maybe even, Donnie. That's where I'm at right at this moment as we sit here on Thursday. Because, again, if we're like, wow, all right, what do you think now? It's 17-3. Like, I think we're done there. I don't think Detroit will have enough gas in the tank, Donnie, to make that comeback.
Here's the interesting part about this game, too, because the playing field technically is even. Now, it's a one-day difference, and nobody had a bye week, and nobody took a bye week. But the advantage would have been for Detroit was, well, I just watched Minnesota go toe-to-toe with Green Bay in a hard-fought game. I rest my starters. Now, I have a massive advantage. Like, for me, talking about this football game on a Thursday, we'll do it more tomorrow. If Detroit had rested their key starters, Kevin, and that line was 2.5, 3, you want to talk about me guns blazing on Detroit going like, oh, my goodness. Like, this schedule fell so perfectly to Detroit, I can't even help myself. They're going to be rested, and they're not going to be game planning against the 49ers. They're already going to have a week and a half to work on Minnesota when Minnesota couldn't do that. They had to beat the Green Bay Packers. Just such a missed opportunity that didn't need to be there. So I think it's an interesting one. And 56.5 points. Like 30-27 is what you need to get that, is if you're lining it up. Can they get there? Can they go toe-to-toe, throw missiles all over the place? Yes, they can. But the one thing I do know is Sam Darnold's going to throw 2 touchdown passes. Justin Jefferson's probably going to find the end zone. This game should be fun. I don't think it's going to be played at a snail's pace, but you need a really good run to get 60 points in an NFL game. A real good run.
You know what's interesting, Donnie, to think about? Had Minnesota lost to Green Bay, right? They would have needed to beat the Niners to clinch the 1 seed. And let's just say they would have, right?
Yes.
What the heck would he have done with potentially, week 18 meaningless, bye week coming? Like, would he have been full gas this week against them, against Minnesota?
Based on how stupid he is, I would assume that he would say, we can't take, which your joke was great on the desk, was like, he would have petitioned the NFL to give the bye to another team because he believes in playing football every week. Like, he's probably the only guy in the league that's like, bye week, bye week. Like, we don't want a bye week. Don't give us a bye week. You know what I mean?
You mentioned it, though. They had an early bye week. Like, this team could use a break. They could use, again, man, very Tom Thibodeau. It's like, man, why have all my guys injured? I don't know. Interesting, man. Interesting. One quick last thing to you.
Yeah.
I just saw people tweeting about it, and probably nothing you can ever do. But you know how, and they're not the same. You know how NBA has the load management stuff and people hate it?
Yes.
You think it's interesting that the NFL is like, yeah, no, it's all good. Like, if you treat week 18, like, it absolutely does not matter. Like, you think the NFL will ever be like, I don't know if we love this.
They've sent the memos out before on week 18 to some teams, and it's basically like, we'd like you to play your starters, but you have every right to do whatever you want. You're supposed to play in the best interest of the game, but how are you going to tell a team that's like, look, we can improve our draft position or slot position here that you can't do anything? Like, granted, it's not like we played our punter at quarterback the whole game. We thought it was hilarious. Like, no, the NFL will come down and be like, you might, as an owner, you might be kicked out of the league completely. But as long as you have a semblance of you are trying, they really can't tap you.
And I guess too, it's like, hey, we're a week away from the playoffs. I don't need you to send Josh Allen out there. Like, next week's what matters. Makes sense.
By the way, We didn't get to talk about a hot topic on the NFL of who's going to be MVP. Because that first game where somebody might throw 5 touchdowns and Josh Allen plays one snap Sunday. Oh, we got topics to talk about this week, people. Thanks for joining us on another edition of Moneyline. For Donnie, Kevin, and Chris behind the wheels of steel, we're out of here. See you next time.
Everywhere. You can get Sports Grid on the radio, TV, the internet. We've got your number, Sporto. That shirt doesn't match. This is the Sports Grid Radio Network.